David Beckham is being told to speak to his own son through lawyers.
Why did Brooklyn Beckham send his parents some sort of legal letter saying, please don't contact us?
These are the celebrity offspring who seem to have everything: fame, fortune, and a fairy tale wedding. But Brooklyn Beckham just made a move that has everyone talking about what's really happening behind those perfectly curated Instagram posts.
Don't have the words.
Brooklyn Beckham now using the long arm of the law to deal with his estranged parents. Yep, according to an ET source, David and Victoria's oldest son sent his mom and dad a legal letter requesting that any correspondence go through lawyers. We're told the attempt to try and make amends privately was issued at the end of last summer.
When the eldest Beckham's son reportedly turned off his comments and put in place what sources call a lawyers-only rule for family communications.
Hey, Brooklyn Beckham's still arguing with his parents, and now he's saying they can only contact him through his lawyer. So according to page 6, Brooklyn Beckham had exchanged letters with his parents over the summer through their legal teams. Why didn't they just use USPS? What is this,
It sent shockwaves through the celebrity gossip world. Look, we've all watched this family for decades. David with his legendary football career and those Calvin Klein ads that defined the early 2000s. Victoria transforming from posh spice into a respected fashion designer. Their 4 beautiful children growing up in the spotlight. They were Britain's golden family, the couple that had it all and made it look effortless. But something shifted after Brooklyn married Nicola Peltz in April 2022.
More than anything.
Family tensions began before Brooklyn and Nicola married in 2022. Our sources say Nicola felt her in-laws, quote, blamed her for taking their son away, and David and Victoria think Nicola can be very controlling.
What should have been a celebration bringing 2 powerful families together became the starting point for what many now call one of the most fascinating celebrity family rifts in recent memory. The wedding itself delivered everything you'd expect from the union of British royalty and American billions. 300 guests gathered at the Peltz family estate in Palm Beach, with a reported price tag of $3.5 million. Nicola wore custom Valentino, and the whole event felt like watching a real-life fairy tale unfold. But here's where things get interesting. In the months after that spectacular wedding, eagle-eyed fans started noticing things.
Nothing to do with it.
Right, this beautiful chicken.
But so much of this feud has played out on social media. On New Year's Eve, David left his son out of his 2025 photo dump after Brooklyn shared these cozy pics with his in-laws.
He loves being
Little things at first. Victoria and Nicola weren't interacting on social media the way you'd expect a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to interact. Family photos looked careful, staged even. The warmth the Beckhams were famous for seemed to cool whenever it came to public interactions with their new daughter-in-law. Then Nicola gave an interview to Grazia USA that set everything ablaze. She dropped what seemed like an innocuous detail, but it turned into a massive talking point. She mentioned she was originally going to wear a Victoria Beckham wedding dress. They'd talked about it. She was excited to try it on, but then nothing happened. A few days went by, and she didn't hear anything, so she went with Valentino instead. Now, brides change their minds about wedding dresses all the time, right? But when your mother-in-law happens to be one of the most famous fashion designers in the world, when wearing her design would have been such a beautiful symbol of joining the family, choosing someone else's dress becomes a statement. Whether Nicola intended it that way or not, the fashion world gasped. The tabloids went wild. And suddenly everyone was picking sides, in a feud that may or may not have even existed. But perception becomes reality in the celebrity world, and the perception was that trouble had found paradise. What makes this even more complex is how 2 very different family dynamics collided. The Beckhams, for all their wealth and fame, came from relatively humble beginnings. David was a working-class kid from East London who made good. Victoria was a middle-class girl from Hertfordshire who sang and danced her way to global fame. They built their empire together, brick by brick. The Peltzes operate in a different universe entirely. That's old American money. Nelson Peltz, Brooklyn's father-in-law, runs as a billionaire businessman with a net worth estimated at $1.6 billion. He's served on the boards of major companies like Wendy's and runs Trian Fund Management. This family operates in the highest echelons of American wealth and power. When these 2 worlds met at that Palm Beach wedding, it wasn't just 2 young people in love getting married. 2 dynasties attempted to merge, bringing all the complications that entails. Brooklyn himself has always occupied a unique position. As the eldest Beckham child, he's carried the weight of expectations his entire life. The world watched him grow from an adorable toddler on his father's hip into a young man trying to find his own path. And that path has been interesting to watch. First came photography, when he published a book called What I See at just 18. Critics remained underwhelmed. Then he moved into the cooking phase, with his Facebook Messenger show Cookin' with Brooklyn, that had professional chefs scratching their heads at his techniques. Each career pivot met accusations of nepotism, with people questioning whether he'd have these opportunities without his famous last name. But Brooklyn kept trying. He kept putting himself out there, even when the internet turned brutal, which makes the recent reports about him turning off comments and implementing strict communication rules even more significant. This is someone who's lived his entire life in public, who's endured criticism about everything from his career choices to his tattoos. What would make him suddenly shut down that avenue of communication? The lawyer's only rule, if true, tells us something important.
Yep, according to an ET source, David and Victoria's oldest son sent his mom and dad a legal letter requesting that any correspondence go through lawyers. We're told the attempt to try and make amends privately was issued at the end of last summer.
We're talking about a family that built their brand on being relatable despite their wealth. Victoria posting videos of herself singing Spice Girls songs in the car. David showing up as a devoted dad at his kids' sporting events. They let us in, or at least gave us the illusion of being let in. Legal intermediaries represent a level of formality that speaks to serious underlying issues.
That's, my God, I start thinking, how catastrophic would something have to be in my life for me to send a legal letter to my mother and say, I no longer want this contact?
What fascinates me is how this plays out in the age of social media. Back in the day, celebrity feuds could simmer privately for years before the public caught wind. Now every liked post, every comment, every follow and unfollow gets scrutinized. Fans become detectives,
asking them to only contact him through their lawyers. Basically, he's gone completely no contact with his family and he doesn't want any interaction, including on social media. But his mother had the gall.
Creating spreadsheets of who attended whose birthday party, who was cropped out of which photo. Brooklyn has over 16 million followers on Instagram. That's 16 million people who feel entitled to an opinion about his life, his marriage, his relationship with his family. Can you imagine that pressure? Every post becomes a statement. Every caption gets analyzed. People debate every emoji choice. And Nicola deserves her own moment here. She entered this family as an accomplished actress in her own right, with her own family's considerable wealth and influence behind her. She didn't need the Beckham name for fame or fortune. If anything, marrying Brooklyn put her under a microscope in a way her acting career never did. The lawsuit the couple filed against their wedding planners in 2023 only added fuel to the fire. Here was a couple that seemed to have everything, suing over their dream wedding. It painted a picture of perfectionism, of exacting standards, of people who wouldn't settle for less than exactly what they wanted. You could admire it in some ways, but it also reinforced the narrative of tension and conflict. What strikes me about this whole situation is how very human it all remains. Despite the extraordinary circumstances, strip away the millions of pounds, the designer clothes, the Palm Beach estates, and what do you have? A young couple trying to establish their own identity, parents potentially struggling to let go, in-laws navigating new dynamics. These universal experiences just happen to play out on a global stage, with a lot more zeros in the bank accounts. The reported communication breakdown becomes particularly poignant when you consider how the Beckhams built their brand. They were the couple that survived affair rumors, career transitions, moves across continents. They showed us that celebrity marriages could last, that fame didn't have to destroy family. If they can't navigate this situation with their eldest son, what does that tell us? But maybe that's too simplistic. Maybe what we're seeing is actually a family setting boundaries in the only way they know how when you live in a fishbowl. Maybe the lawyer's only rule isn't about animosity, but about protection.
Yes, right? Before we let you go, I want to talk about something that's big news today, and it's what's going on with the Beckham family. Like the whole world watched when the son Brooklyn married Nicola Peltz, who comes from a very wealthy New York family, and then pretty quickly after that, their relationship, and in a public way, started disintegrating. Today, the news was that Brooklyn, through his own lawyers, sent like a cease and desist or something to his parents, saying, "Stop contacting me, stop posting on my social media, leave me alone." And so
this is touchy grounds because
ensuring that private family matters stay private, that words can't be twisted or taken out of context. The timing of Brooklyn reportedly turning off comments raises its own questions. We live in an era where social media comment sections have become increasingly toxic.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, the family brand Beckham have always lived their life online.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the downside of living your life online, is that everybody's invested in what's going on and watching your every move. So it all does kind of come out. But in a way, I think he's their firstborn, and I think it's really sad, because I know we're all talking about it, everybody's talking about it, but behind the scenes, can you imagine how painful it must be?
Celebrities face death threats, racist abuse, attacks on their children, all from anonymous accounts hiding behind anime avatars. Maybe Brooklyn just hit his limit. Maybe watching strangers dissect his family relationships, his marriage, his career choices just became too much. There's also the Peltz family's influence to consider.
Nothing to do with it.
Right, this beautiful chicken.
But so much of this feud has played out on social media. On New Year's Eve, David left his son out of his 2025 photo dump after Brooklyn shared these cozy pics with his in-laws.
He loves being with my family.
And this week,
this family operates differently from the Beckhams. They're more private, more corporate in their approach to public life. Nelson Peltz didn't build his billion-dollar empire by sharing his feelings on Instagram. Brooklyn might be adapting to his wife's family's way of doing things, choosing privacy over the public engagement he grew up with. What's certain is that something has shifted in the Beckham family dynamic.
We're told Brooklyn's parents have repeatedly asked Brooklyn and Nicola to meet and talk in order to move forward. But an invite to David's knighting ceremony last November fell on deaf ears.
David Beckham, for services to sport and to charity.
We've got 4 amazing children.
Whether it's a full-blown feud or just the natural evolution of a family as children grow up and establish their own lives, the public nature of it all makes a compelling viewing for those of us watching from the sidelines. The real tragedy, if we can call it that, is that this should be a time of joy for the family.
I take no glee in this story at all, because as a mum, it would break your heart for that to happen. But apparently it is becoming, a bit of a thing. Whereas it used to be your parents, even if they annoyed the hell out of you, you have this sense of duty.
And we're not perfect either,
Yeah,
are we?
no, absolutely. But now this thing about, young adults deciding, I don't want them in my life because I don't think that they are a force for good. That's big.
And nothing is ever one thing, is it? I mean, I don't think you should just uniformly...
Brooklyn is in his mid-20s, married to someone he clearly adores. Just look at how many tattoos he has dedicated to her, including her last name. He's finding his way in the world, even if that way involves some stumbles. These should be years of family dinners and shared celebrations, not reported legal intermediaries and turned-off comment sections. But perhaps this is the price of extreme fame in the social media age. Every family has its tensions, its disagreements, its periods of distance. Most of us just get to work through them without millions of people watching and commenting. The Beckhams don't have that luxury. As we watch this story continue to unfold, because we will all keep watching, it's worth remembering that behind the headlines and the Instagram posts and the reported legal communications are real people navigating complex emotions.
So this is touchy grounds because I see this often. I get so many celebrities that reach out to me with similar situations, and I often say that he's not the one leading the estrangement, he's surviving in it. It is a perfect example on how often, I cannot tell you, Ben, how often I see the daughter-in-law come in and create that power. It's called a power shift estrangement.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want that control. And now the child has turned against the family and he's kind of surviving in it. So he's stuck between the battle of, I got to keep my loyalty in this situation, or my parents, this is my future family. My loyalty stands here.
Interesting.
A son trying to balance his birth family with his chosen family. Parents potentially struggling with their changing role. A young woman who married for love and found herself at the center of a media storm. The comments may be turned off, but the conversation about what it means to be a family in the public eye continues. That conversation about how fame shapes and sometimes warps our most important relationships keeps going. And somewhere in London or Los Angeles or wherever they are right now, the Beckhams are probably having their own conversations, hopefully not through lawyers.
To charity.
We've got 4 amazing children. Nothing comes in the way of our family.
I'm never going to say never. You never know.
About what comes next. Because if there's one thing we've learned from watching this family over the years, it's that they're survivors. They've weathered storms before. The question now is whether this reported rift, these new rules and boundaries, represent an ending, or just another chapter in the ongoing saga of one of the world's most watched families. Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, we'll all be watching to find out.